Welcome into the channel. Let's talk some Texans. Plenty to get to on the stream tonight. Appreciate you tuning in live. Appreciate you tuning in after the fact if you're catching this the next day or later. Let's talk about it. CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans still going to New Orleans, but not going for joint practices. Why? Is there a deeper issue at hand? We'll explore. Plus, DeMeco Ryans weighs in on CJ Stroud and says something that's pretty important for Sunday's game. I had a question for DeMeco Ryans today at his press conference, and we'll compare his answer and the expectations for him to Bill O'Brien, David Culley, and Lovie Smith. Ooh, it's not a trip down memory lane we want to go down. The rush defense wasn't as bad as you think it was on Saturday. I'll explain, and so much more. If it's your first time in, appreciate you joining. I'm Cody Stoots. I cover the Houston Texans each and every day. I do it right here on YouTube. Would appreciate a thumbs up on the video. I would appreciate you subscribing down below if you're not subscribed already. And I would love for you to check out Houston Football, my website that I own and use and operate to cover the Houston Texans, where I do all my writing. You can check that out in the description down below, or www.houfootball.com. Appreciate everybody jumping in tonight. We'll take your questions along the way. Super Chats move to the front of the line, but let's get into it. The Houston Texans announced late Sunday no joint practices with the New Orleans Saints, and it comes out that it was the Texans that initiated the cancellation of the joint practices with the Saints. The teams were initially supposed to practice at the Saints practice facility on Thursday and Friday. I was going to be live in attendance. It's going to be our first time in New Orleans. I was very excited, but now they will just play a preseason game. DeMeco Ryans today at the podium explained exactly why his team is not having joint practices with the New Orleans Saints.
Canceling the joint practices with the Saints is where we are as a team a little banged up. So I thought it's in the best interest of our team, right, and putting our guys first that, we should do the joint practices. And thankful to Dennis and the Saints for, the opportunity to have the joint practice and, with them working with us being understandable.
That video courtesy of the Houston Texans. Appreciate them sharing the video with me. Banged up Texans team. And DeMeco would go on to say that he didn't feel like they could get everything that they needed to get out of the joint practices because they had guys banged up. They've had offensive linemen that are hurt. I think they've got some offensive guys in the running back room that are a little dinged up. So there's a couple of guys, there's a few different guys that just wouldn't be ready for joint practices. He said he didn't think that they'd get a lot out of them. And then he went on to say, I think probably the Saints wouldn't get as much out of it either if the Texans can't go full go. It does give me a couple of questions. One was 2 joint practices and the amount of work that they were trying to squeeze into such a short amount of time. Was that a little bit of a too much of an estimation of what they were capable of doing? That's something to pay attention to for next year. It definitely alters the plan that this team was going to operate with in the third preseason game. We've talked about this before. DeMeco Ryans, the way he talks about the third preseason game, it doesn't feel like he was going to play a lot of his players. Now, without those 2 days of joint practices, with just reps against their teammates, and albeit probably lighter reps, considering guys are banged up, just because guys are not traveling for joint practices doesn't mean you're going to go out there and have 2 knockdown, drag-out, padded practices. That's not going to be the case either. So a little bit of light practice this week for the Texans ahead of that final preseason game. That scoots a few guys that maybe weren't going to play in the preseason game, maybe into a little bit of preseason action. But I've seen this going around on social media. People have been hitting me in the Twitter questions, been hitting me in the comments. Hold on. I have a little conspiracy theory for you. This is my foil hat here. I got my tinfoil hat on here, my conspiracy theory hat. Okay? Conspiracy theory that I've seen floating around. The Houston Texans were disappointed with the way that they played and that they were scared to go to New Orleans and take on the Saints for a couple of joint practices, and they're going to lightly approach this final preseason game, and they're not actually hurt. They're just scared to go to 2 joint practices on the road against a team like the Saints and get exposed. Do any of you believe that? Is that the unsolved mystery here? It's poppycock. It's craziness. That's why we have the tinfoil hats. Get out of here, tinfoil hat. Okay, that is not what's going on here. All right? And yes, I'm bummed there's not 2 joint practices. I was excited to see this team against the Saints defense that, while not super talented, is very experienced. There's a lot of experience on that Saints defense. And I was excited to see this Texans defense against a pretty nice offense. You think about what Chris Olave brings to the table. Derek Carr going to be there this year. They've got some options that aren't Alvin Kamara in training camp that they can get the ball to. So I was excited to see these 2 teams square off. I don't know what New Orleans is going to do from a game plan perspective on what they intend to play, but I do believe that this adds a little more to the snap count and maybe moves the snap count for a lot of players from 0 up to at least playing in this final preseason game. So I'm bummed about the joint practices. I don't believe that we'll be sitting here in the middle of October and be like, damn it, if they'd only had the joint practices against New Orleans. Like, we're not going to be there. Yes, they're important. Yes, it's good work. Yes, they could have gotten a lot out of them, but you can't get a lot out of a joint practice at the expense of having guys ready for not only the game, however much they were going to play, but having them ready for Baltimore. Yes, there's a 2-week stretch between the game and even more time between the final joint practice in Baltimore. But a hamstring knocks a guy out for 14 days. You know, you aggravate something that was already bothering you, and all of a sudden you're missing a guy for Baltimore, which is right now the most important game on the schedule. It's the first preseason game. It's on the road. It's a Super Bowl contender. I know they just lost their first preseason game in forever, but it's an important game, having everybody ready and slowly taking this week, playing in the game against the Saints, having a week and then some to ramp up for Baltimore. I'm not worried that they're missing out on the joint practice. Okay? I'm not worried about that. I am a little bummed for CJ Stroud because, again, going against that defense might have been pretty useful, but listening to D'Amico Ryan's talk on Monday had some really good things to say about Stroud. And check out the back part of this comment from D'Amico Ryan's as he talks about the Houston Texans quarterback.
CJ May, you see the accuracy, right? What you saw in college, you saw CJ just playing comfortable, and it was exciting to see him just playing loose, making the throws that we've all seen him make in practice. We've seen him make at Ohio State. So you saw him just being himself and being comfortable, and that's what he can do. Just have to continue to get more reps so he can continue to be even more comfortable when he's in those game-like situations. Nothing is more important than getting reps, right? Real, actual reps in games, and it was fun to see him just the game slow down a little bit and to see him make the plays that we have all seen him make.
Oh, nothing's more important than those game reps. Well, you can simulate game reps with joint practices. Well, when those go away, kind of sounds like CJ's going to play on Sunday and play a little bit more than a lot of us expected. I actually expected CJ to play 0 snaps on Sunday after a couple of joint practices, but with the joint practices going away, I now expect CJ Stroud to play in this game. And if the Saints play any of their notable defenders, it'll be a nice little final aperitif before he heads into the regular season with this Baltimore Ravens team staring down the Texans week 1 on that regular season schedule. But a lot of nice things that D'Amico Ryan's had to say about CJ Stroud growing into things. Again, Saturday against the Dolphins was a small step. I'm not here to tell you the guy looked amazing compared to New England, but it was a step forward for CJ Stroud, and he needs in 2023 to take more steps forward than to have no steps or steps backwards. So that is the important aspect of the preseason. And I don't know, say he goes out there for 2 series on Sunday and one of them's a touchdown drive. Say he puts one into the corner to Nico Collins. Okay, feel pretty good about that. Getting things into the regular season, get into regular season mode, and really get going with this team. That's what I'm hoping for with this week now, this lighter week. It was going to be a heavy work week, okay? They were supposed to practice a couple of times and then go to New Orleans and practice and then play the game. Like, now it's a little bit lighter week, okay? A little bit lighter week. They dialed back on the practices. They're probably not going to have intense practices on Thursday and Friday. They're going to head over there Saturday, play the game on Sunday. A few more guys will play than usual, but it's still going to be a busy week, an important week. But I'm bummed about joint practices, but we're not going to be sitting here in October and being like, if only they'd had joint practices with the Saints. That's not where we're going to be. Okay. Got to talk about D'Amico Ryans versus Bill O'Brien, David Culley, and Lovie Smith. We'll get to that next after we get to some of your comments. Appreciate everybody chiming in the comment section. Appreciate everybody jumping in on a late night Texans stream, or if you're watching it the next day, appreciate you watching it the next day. All the folks in here, from Jose to Brandon, Sean, appreciate you. Marca, I hope I'm saying that right. He put down Madden to come watch this. Thank you. Jim, Rick, appreciate you guys jumping in. Your comments, of course, let's get to some of these. Talon Green, I like the decision. Yeah, if guys are banged up, then, don't go out there and get them more banged up. Because if a guy's hurt or injured or not feeling great and you get him more injured because of joint practice, he misses Baltimore. And there's a lot of guys that, you can use from a depth aspect or whatever that you don't want to have missing for Baltimore. Sean G. Thought the cancellation of joint practice was more about the team getting ready for week 1 than about injuries after Saturday's game. That's what it felt like to me. There's an element of that. I will say the Texans are going into regular season mode with the way that they're operating the week. So light on Monday, review tape, nothing Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, practice, travel Saturday, game Sunday. That's their MO for the entire season. They only play on Sunday. They only play at noon with the exception of 2 games that are currently scheduled other times. Okay. So the coaches love rhythms. Coaches love getting into routines, and they have that opportunity now, and they can start putting that routine together as well. Talent. He wants to whip that defense into shape. Yeah. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Get that defense ready. Okay. I'm not going to sell the tinfoil hat. Funny story about the tinfoil hat. I didn't have any actual tinfoil. I was going to make some crazy, like, wizard-looking tinfoil hat. So that's actually the bag that breadcrumbs come in. And I taped it together so I could, like, put it over my head. So the tinfoil breadcrumb hat. Maybe I need to go buy a real tinfoil hat. And then, when we have Texans conspiracy theories, we can put them back on. So, Brandon, totally cool with no joint practices. Definitely get more reps in and can start prepping for the Ravens, like you said. Yeah, you start working on the Ravens and get some things going and see what they can put together as well. One more thing from Brandon. I still don't understand why I see people wanting Mills to start. What can he show CJ? It's a new system for both of them. We know who Mills is. Mills got his opportunity. It's time for CJ. Yeah, the Mills starting people, I don't get it either. I don't understand it. He hasn't played as well as CJ Stroud. He hasn't practiced as well as CJ Stroud. So why would you play that guy? Oh, I'm worried about CJ getting his I'm worried about CJ and his head and what happens to his mind if he struggles. Well, hopefully he bounces back if he struggles. And if the guy is not mentally capable of failing in the first couple of weeks of the NFL season and bouncing back from it, then he's not the franchise quarterback anyway, and you got to find that out. So the people that are worried about, oh, what is CJ? What if he can't handle failure? I mean, okay, well, if he can't handle failure, you need to find out that he can't handle failure. All right? You're not going to ruin a guy because you play him too early. That doesn't happen anymore. Guys either got it or they don't. And you need to start finding out ASAP if guys got it. All right? I don't know if Stroud's got it. He showcased some elements that makes me feel like he's got it, but you've got to start figuring out if he's got it. He's in position to be a franchise quarterback. He's not a franchise quarterback. Those guys are established. Those guys have results. Those guys have wins. Franchise QBs put stuff together and prove they're franchise QBs. All he is right now is on a path with an opportunity to be a franchise QB. That's the biggest element about 2023 and probably 2024. He's not a franchise quarterback yet. He has to go out there and prove that he is a franchise quarterback. And the only way that he can prove that is by playing a crap ton of football games, preferably 34 over the next 2 seasons, and maybe some more after that. So maybe you might make the playoffs because the AFC South kind of stinks. All right? That's the big element about CJ Stroud and him needing to play. I appreciate Landry Locker showing up and clowning me for actually trying to learn some things about the organization when they made the offensive line coach available. All right. Like the offensive line's not going to be important and has underachieved in training camp to this point. Sorry, I wanted to go talk to Chris Strasser, the offensive line coach. Landry, congratulations on the child. Seems like everyone's happy, healthy. You're back home. Everybody go follow Landry's channel if you haven't. He does a great job. He's number 1. I currently would call myself number 2 for Texans digital content, but we can argue and debate on the pecking order, but Landry does a great job. So check out his channel. He pops on here from time to time. I pop on there from time to time. All right. I was really disappointed with the delay of game on 3rd and 1 at the goal line. I was really disappointed with that. I went back and watched that on Sunday and broke it down. I did basically the second by second breakdown on Houston Football, the website. Links below. You can check it out. And they run the play. They have a substitution. And Stroud gets everybody in the huddle with 18 seconds left on the play clock. They break the huddle at 12 seconds. Stroud goes under center, looks back, checks with Dameon Pierce about something, gets back in there, puts Andrew Beck in motion. As Beck's motioning in, he's going like this. He's giving the, hey, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Next thing you know, Laundry's on the field, yellow flag, delay a game, move it back 5 yards. And that to me was a situation where it's worth burning the timeout for 5 yards. Okay? 3rd and 6 in the second quarter when it's 7-7. Don't burn a timeout for 5 yards. 3rd and 4, 2nd and 8, whatever it is, in the fourth quarter, don't burn a timeout for 5 yards. Rookie quarterback, rookie center, first-time head coach, first-time play caller, burn that timeout, run down there, hit the timeout, and let the quarterback operate from the 1-yard line. That I don't know if that's exactly something that Stroud needed to notice. I don't know if that's exactly something that, can Bobby Slowick call timeout? Should one of the other players have called timeout? You don't really ever see that. Should D'Amico have run down? Well, I wanted to know. So Monday, I asked D'Amico Ryans about it. Here's what the head coach had to say about that scenario.
I thought there I could have been better just going down to save us. I thought we would be able to get lined up and we would get it off, but it seemed to be that, we weren't going to get it done, so I could have sprinted down and got the timeouts. It's a team thing overall. We start with me first. I can be better there, and I will be better.
So when you factor in that, hey, D'Amico Ryans, I'm going to be better, we'll hold him to that. That's something we'll all be paying attention to. And here's my big thing about D'Amico Ryans and managing the game. Currently, now this could change in the regular season. Currently, he's not calling the defense. Matt Burke has called the defense in the 2 preseason games. Matt Burke's called the defense in practice. So currently, DeMeco Ryans is not calling the defense. Now, I always get a little hesitant when you get the job, when you earn the job, because you called defense so well in San Francisco, to not do that when you get here to Houston. But if you can affect the game in a bunch of other ways and you can make things work on a large degree everywhere else, then I'll be less worried about it. But DeMeco Ryans, if he's not going to call the defense, and really, even if he does call the defense, game management, when to call timeouts, when to go for 2, when to go for it on 4th down, some of the goofy stuff that Vrabel and Belichick have done, like to take penalties on purpose to make sure all that kind of stuff has got to be way better than his 3 predecessors. Way better. Bill O'Brien was captain inconsistency with it. Sometimes he's going for it, like when he direct snaps the ball to an injured Justin Reed in the Kansas City playoff game. And sometimes he's punting like a wuss when his team very clearly could have got the yards. Okay? He was captain inconsistency when it came to that. Plus, sometimes he just didn't know when to use a challenge flag. Famously, Shane Leckler had to let Bill O'Brien know one time to challenge a play. So he was inconsistent. David Culley was just lost. And I don't know that it was David Culley's decision. Okay? I don't know that a lot of the stuff David Culley was supposed to be in charge of was actually him being in charge of it. So anybody can be better than the guy who said he got off Madden to watch the stream. He's probably better at game management than David Culley. Okay? Got to be better than David Culley. And with Lovie Smith, Lovie was inconsistent as well and just flat out made the wrong decision sometimes. Shouldn't have gone for the tie. Should have gone for the win. Sometimes he'd let Kaimi kick a 50-yarder. Sometimes he'd let Kaimi not kick a 51-yarder. Sometimes he'd let him kick a 60-yarder. And then sometimes he wouldn't let him kick a 52-yarder. Like, all those things have to be elite with DeMeco Ryans, especially if he's not going to call plays. This team, in the early portion of DeMeco's tenure as the head coach, is going to live in the margins. They are going to need every advantage and any sort of disadvantage, any sort of action that takes away a chance for them to get the ball back, get an opportunity to score, or just hurts their win percentage opportunity, which is a fake stat that I just made up, but you know what I mean. Anything that hurts that is going to be significant for the Texans and more difficult to overcome for them than most other teams. So with that, DeMeco's got to be tip-top with that. If that's Caserio helping, if that's Bobby Slowick helping, if that's Frank Ross helping, if that's Matt Burke helping, I don't care. The organization, the team has got to be good at that element. They've been bad at it for about 7 years. Okay? It's got to be good, especially if he's not going to call the defense. Especially if he's not going to call the defense. So if DeMeco's only letting Burke call it for the preseason, and then he's going to take back over when the regular season gets here, I'm fine with that. It's still him that's got to dig the red challenge flag out. It's still him that's deciding, let's go for 2, let's not go for 2. Hey, Coach Slowick, we're going to go for it here, so call a good 3rd down play that maybe sets us up for 4th down. Like, all that stuff's got to be big time with DeMeco Ryans, and I expect that it will be, because these younger coaches are smarter about these things. These younger coaches typically lean a little bit more aggressive, and if DeMeco Ryans is telling the truth, as he talked about Monday, he'll learn from it. Hey, I probably should have called a timeout there, let my quarterback operate on 3rd down from the 1-yard line, let my quarterback operate on 3rd down from the 6-yard line. If he learns from it, all gravy, baby. All gravy, baby. Not going to worry about it too terribly much, but it is something to monitor with a brand new head coach. All right, a couple of comments and questions, then we'll get to maybe a controversial Cody take here. Pete, appreciate you tuning in from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Brandon, we're going to need D'Amico to call those defensive plays, especially if he's another bad outing on Sunday. I mean, we'll get to this in just a second. I feel like that is an all of them error. A veteran center likely would have noticed. CJ should at least be glancing at the clock, breaking the huddle, and D'Amico could have been more assertive. We also don't know when CJ got the play. Did Slowick get it in fast enough? Did CJ call the play fast enough? There's a lot of different things that could have gone wrong in that operation. That's just something they'll smooth out. By the way, that's what? I'm trying to think here. That's play number 16, play number 17 that CJ Stroud's called as a professional football player. Like, I'm not crushing these guys. Like, I don't want it to seem like, hey, like they're a terrible game operator. Like, that's not my situation. Like, it's maybe the 20th play call CJ Stroud has made in an NFL type game. It's still the preseason. Like, make this mistake in week 2 of the preseason when the result doesn't matter. Don't make this mistake in Baltimore. If Lamar gives you one and you're on the 1 yard line in Baltimore, don't screw this up. Yeah, D'Amico does not come off as stubborn at all. At all. He seems very willing to listen, have a conversation, change the approach if necessary. He doesn't come off as stubborn at all. Whereas Bill O'Brien felt like he was cemented in his ways. All right. If you got a question that's not totally on topic, I'll start it. We'll try to get back to it. And when we get to the Q&A, one more thing for you guys from Saturday. The run defense wasn't that bad, I think. So stay with me here. Now, I'm looking primarily at the first half of the game. Okay? I don't care as much. About the second half and the third and fourth string guys and stuff like that not being able to stop the run. That doesn't bother me as much. But looking at the first half, the Dolphins had 140 rushing yards. And they averaged about 7-ish yards a carry. Okay? There were 2 plays that added a ton of that yardage. Okay? The Ahmed fella had the 65-yard run, and Devin A-Chain had a 20-yard run. So, again, those plays happened. So I don't want you to act like all of a sudden, just wipe those away. Everything's hunky-dory. That's not the case. Okay? Those plays happened. But if you take out the 65-yard rush and you take out the 20-yard rush, it's 55 yards of rushing. Now, again, those plays occurred. I'm not blind to that fact. But if you limit 2 big plays and the rest of the half you're allowing 3.2 yards a carry, that's a successful half of football. And I know 3.2 yards per carry doesn't sound like it's amazing, but that's what they allowed outside of those 2 plays. And 3.2 yards per carry would be better than the number 1 defense in football last year, which was D'Amico Ryan's San Francisco 49ers on yards per carry. So, again, those 2 big plays are unacceptable, especially because both of those plays were supposed to be give-up plays by the Miami Dolphins. The Devin A-Chain 3rd and 14 rush for 20 yards is one of the most unacceptable things that I have seen in a long time. And it was literally Miami running a draw play or a run play with the hope that they could then keep the ball and punt it. Get a few more yards and punt it. Okay? Like, that was the hope of the Dolphins. And the next thing you know, Henry To'oTo'o is just vacating the rush lane, and Devin A-Chain's running for 20 yards. Like, if you go watch that play and the TV broadcast with Kugler and Indy Kalou did a great job. Henry To'oTo'o is running. He sees the hole. He sees the running back with the ball, and he just goes, To'oTo'o attacks a blocker. Like, he goes after the blocker instead of just filling the hole and forcing the fourth down. Like, I was like, what? Like, this is a guy whose play recognition is supposed to be fantastic, and he just goes and attacks the blocker instead of attacking the running back. I was baffled by this. I'm sure the coaches gave him hell when they're looking at the film. And then on the 65-yarder, there's a comedy of errors. Dylan Horton fell down. Roy Lopez got blocked. To'oTo'o had a guard come and get him. It looked like maybe Jake Hansen was set to make the play, but then Eric Murray comes flying in and takes him out. And Shaq Griffin got blocked out of the equation and blocked into oblivion by a tight end. So, two fairly correctable plays. And if A-Chain goes for 7 yards instead of 20, and Ahmed goes for 8 yards instead of 65, okay, you're looking at a situation. Okay, so they had 55 yards outside those big plays. Let's say it was 7 and 8 yards. Well, then it's 70 rushing yards on 19 attempts, and it's 3.6 yards per carry. You can live with it. Like, this is a team that's equipped to stop the run with the talent that they have. They spent a bunch of money on Sheldon Rankins. They've got Malik Collins, who's on a contract extension. Will Anderson's a monster. Like, they've got players that can stop the run. These linebackers are geared up and better suited in the past couple of years to stop the run. Even Petrie knifed in there and stopped the run short. And I would go as far as to tell you this aspect of it, okay? It's the last thing I'm going to say good about the run defense, and then we can have some conversation about it. They had 7 plays in the first half. Now, mind you, 19 rushing attempts. 19 rushing attempts. They had 7 plays in the first half go for 1 yard, no yards, or negative yards. That's what the defense was able to achieve. 7 times out of 19, the Dolphins rushed for 1 yard, no yards, or negative yards. They just so happened to give up a 65-yarder, a 20-yarder on third down, and Raheem Mostert smacked them around for 14 in the red zone and set up the Dolphins in a pretty good spot. So again, this is not an excuse. This is not revisionist history. The issue on those big plays are, to me, easily correctable. I don't believe Dylan Horton's going to be in there trying to stop J.K. Dobbins. Okay? I'm sure Henry To'oTo'o is trying to blow that running back up the next time, and he's not going and finding himself a defender. Okay? So, plenty to clean up, but it's all clean-upable mistakes. I don't talk for a living or anything. All right? All right, Q&A time. You got questions? Fire away. We'll get to some of the starred questions from earlier as well. And one person said really early on, he said something about Jacob Martin and run fits and how teams used to attack Jacob Martin. I wish I could find that comment, but yeah, that's something to pay attention to. And I didn't feel like Martin was terrible on Saturday, and he's going to play a lot. I mean, the 4 defensive linemen they trust the most right now are Will Anderson, Jerry Hughes, John Grenard, and Jacob Martin. Those are the 4 guys they trust the most. And the 5th guy is Dylan Horton. So, to me, that's your 5 defensive linemen. When rosters get cut down next week, that's your 5 defensive ends. And then they're going to keep 5 defensive tackles. That's kind of how I see it shaking out. So, Martin hadn't been bad so far, But let's see exactly what he does in some real game action. And look, if he's on the field and getting exposed, you got to get him off the field. Okay? You got to get him off the field. So, all right, you guys throw your questions in here. We'll get to a bunch of these as we go. If you want to get to the front of the line, the super chat is an option for you as well. Jose says, Jake does a weekly show with the Texans about Aaron Wilson. Any future collab? Miss y'all's conversations. I don't anticipate a crossover on that. I don't anticipate a crossover on that. I thought some of these comments were neat from Marca. How do I say your name? He's talking about the Texans in Madden. Or, well, this was about the Ravens. The only thing I'm curious to see is the run defense be good versus the Ravens, our biggest weakness last year, versus Ravens' biggest strength. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be able to run the football. They're going to be able to run the football, and you're going to have to stop them. Lamar's a total wild card, and it's a new offense for them, and they got some talent, and they're healthy. I mean, it's going to be tough. Week 1's going to be tough. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then Malcolm said he boosted Tank's speed a little bit. You're already in the editor on the Madden? What are we doing here? Houston Oiler, the Houston Oiler. That Browns pick. Will the Browns stink it up this coming season? Well, let's see what the win-loss record is supposed to be. Let's see what the odds are. Over under 9.5 wins. So 8 wins probably puts you in the teens. 8 wins puts you in the teens. I mean, I don't believe they're going to just bottom out by any means, but I'm also not putting it past things just not going well. And they've got a situation there in Cleveland where if they want to fire their coach and bring in a guy who's had some coaching experience, they've got that guy on staff. So, man, I sure hope it falls apart and we're throwing a pizza party. If you don't know, we got the pizza party proclamation. Browns pick is near the top. Texans draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Pizza party. Pizza party on me. I'll buy all the pizza, beverages, and we'll have some fun. Collectables. Do you think Tank Dell could be wide receiver 1 or 2? Yeah, so, I mean, is Dell going to be one of the best wide receivers on this team? It seems that way. And he's gotten a lot of work in the preseason, a lot of work in practices with just the Texans, a lot of joint practice work. I feel like that was kind of part of like, hey, do you feel 100% for this game? Because you really don't need the game action. We feel good about you. So I feel like that's an element of Tank missing Saturday's game. I wouldn't expect him to play on Sunday's game if they do play. But yeah, could Tank be the number 1 wide receiver? Like, not necessarily the number 1 option, like he's playing outside, yada, yada, kind of like that. But can he be the guy that CJ Stroud looks for the most? Can he be the guy that leads the team with the receiving? It's possible. It's certainly possible. I would not have told you that prior to the preseason getting going. I had expectations that Dell would take a little time to ramp up. He's clearly exceeded my expectations for him. And so it's certainly possible. Oh, I don't think they've dug in the bag at all. I don't think they've dug in the bag from a defensive standpoint at all. Anytime they have done some stuff, it's been a pretty basic thing. I don't think they've started to bag. They've started to dig into the bag of tricks just yet at all. What's your thoughts on canceling the joint practices? Ray, we talked about that earlier on in the live stream, if you want to get to that. Is Will Anderson the next JJ? No, because there's never going to be another JJ Watt. They also play different positions, and they play the game differently. But is Will Anderson the next great defensive player for the Texans? He certainly has that opportunity. It has been remarkable watching him play in joint practices, watching him play in the preseason game Saturday, he looked really good, and watching him play against his teammates. I mean, he has been as advertised. It's not supposed to look like Saturday for the guys who are rookies. It looks like Alabama versus a cupcake on a Saturday in November. That's what it looks like when Anderson's out there sometimes. Did Ridgeway play Saturday? If not, how has he been in camp and games? Banged up at the beginning of last week, so didn't play. But Hassan Ridgeway is a guy that's going to help with the rush defense as well. That's a guy that they were going to count on for rush defense situations. He's a good depth piece at the defensive tackle spot. He's been solid. I mean, nothing remarkable. He does his job, and he does his job pretty well. What do you think they need to do to defend the run more effectively? And D'Amico Ryans talked about this a little bit. Like, it's correctable mistakes that they made, and getting into your run fits, they can't simulate full-on tackling action. They're going to do a little bit, thumping probably this week. But, if you're not healthy enough to do joint practices, you're probably not healthy enough to do like a real padded practice either. I would think a lot of this is film. Again, 3.2 yards per carry allowed outside the 65-yard run and the 20-yard run by A-Chain in the first half. That's good. 7 snaps where the Dolphins ran the ball and got 1, 0, or negative yards. That's good. That's good. You got to clean up those giant plays, though. Those will destroy the Texans in the course of the year, especially, and D'Amico talked about not getting off the field on third down, especially when the Dolphins on 3rd and 14 can run the football. My God, that should never happen. That should never happen. For offense, will we finally throw the ball farther than 15 to 20 yards? Haven't seen a deep throw yet. They're going to dial it up. I mean, they throw it deep in practice a couple times. They're going to dial it up. I'm not worried about their ability to get the ball deep. I'm not worried about it. Are the Rock Boys coming back? No. Cancel the Rock Boys tour. Cancel the Rock Boys tour. Although I'll let you know, Landry Locker, honorary Rock Boy. He loves the Rock Boys. My buddy Landry, he loved that. He's an honorary Rock Boy. He asked Whitney Merciless one time, like, hey, how do I become a Rock Boy? Whitney was like, you can't. You don't play for the defense, but we'll make you an honorary Rock Boy. So Landry's an honorary Rock Boy. I love the CJ performance, just like I asked last time around. You predicted it, but what is your biggest adjustment for week 3? I mean, I'd like to see maybe some adjustment at the line. Hey, I see this. Let's get us out of this play, get us into a different play. You may not do that a ton in the preseason. He won on the edge with Noah Brown. He won on the edge with Robert Woods. Maybe some more stuff over the middle in tight stuff. Noah Brown had the slide. Noah Brown had the one where Xavier Howard came in and knocked it away. So maybe a little bit more win over the middle. Just pick apart the defense and have some success over the middle would kind of be my thing. Bella and Alex forever. Did a receiver stop at the butter station? We had too many drop passes. Boy, Noah Brown's going to want that one where he had to slide back. He's going to want that one back, man. He's going to want that one back. That would have been a fun one. That would have kept the drive alive, and might have seen something there. Yeah, we got some stuff playing in the future. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm a film guy. So I'm going to go find people that are film guys, find out if I trust them. And, if they're good, I'll bring their content to you guys. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the X's and O's and the thises and that's and the X receiver is supposed to do this and the Y receiver flanking on the back. I'm not going to pretend like I know all that crap. I don't. I just watch it. This is what I saw. Watch the replay. That's what I saw. Hey, probably should have done this. X's and O's not my strong suit. there's a lot of fake X's and O guys too. So if I'm going to bring in X's and O's guys, if I'm going to bring in an X's and O's guy for you guys, I'm going to make sure that I like what they bring to the table. Well, Tank's developing. You would think that Dameon Pierce and hope that Dameon Pierce is one of those guys. Dalton Schultz as well, you know. Dalton Schultz. Would you still take Young over Stroud? So I'm still a Bryce guy. Like, I still believe Bryce Young is going to be a good football player. It's hard for me to answer this question because I would love to know if they were also getting Will Anderson. Because if you told me you're getting Bryce Young and Will Anderson, well, I'm taking that duo. I'm taking that duo over C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. But if you told me it's just Bryce Young, the 12th pick, the 33rd pick, and the third-round pick the next year versus C.J. and Will Anderson, knowing what I know now about Will Anderson, I'm probably leaning towards C.J. and Will Anderson. And that duo, that combination. If it's just straight up QB versus QB, I take Bryce. I was a Bryce guy before. I've seen nothing to kind of move me off of Bryce. But again, that doesn't mean that CJ can't be a good quarterback. Okay. And I didn't feel like Stroud was some sort of bad option. I just didn't feel like he was as good of an option as Bryce Young. And what is a really fun aspect of this AFC South and the schedule that the Texans play, going to play Anthony Richardson week 2, going to play Bryce Young this season. And if the Titans are falling apart and go to Will Levis, going to play Will Levis. So you get the other top 3 quarterbacks against C.J. Stroud in those games. So I'm excited for the opportunity for that as well. Jose, why are the Texans not announcing Stroud as the week 1 starter? No need to drag it out. I have no idea. Maybe they want this to be some big thing, that they announce week 1, or they got a graphics this, or I don't know. Maybe there's something more to it. I'm telling y'all though. I'm telling y'all because I get people DMing me on Twitter, people asking in the comments. CJ Stroud is the starter and will start against the Baltimore Ravens. CJ Stroud is the starter and will start against the Baltimore Ravens. Okay? I don't care if they announce it or not. I understand why people want the announcement. It's a fun element to the lead up. But CJ Stroud is going to be the starting quarterback against the Baltimore Ravens, or this is the dumbest organization in the history of football. He's starting week 1 against the Ravens. You think Dameon Pierce is going to have him run more? You think Dameon Pierce is going to have him run more? This offense should be very productive for Dameon Pierce. And you got to think about the improvement of the offensive line. Shaq Mason is a road grader. Kenyon Green, if he improves, Drew Scruggs seems kind of nasty. So this should be a big year for Dameon Pierce. It was close to 1,000 yards last year. 1,000 yards, not as impressive as it used to be. In fact, 1,000 yards was never actually that super impressive. It checks out right now to about 58, 59 yards a game. If your running back rushed for 60 yards every week, that would not be fun. Dameon Pierce has the ability to rush for far more in a game. I mean, he's going to rattle off some 100-yard games against some bad teams, man. This is about Will Anderson, right, AB? I saw that. Will Anderson, one of the highest rated rookies in all of football in week 2, according to Pro Football Focus. I'm curious if Will could eat up that slippery Ravens QB and rush his passes. Man, the scary part about Lamar is he's been so good about throwing the ball on the run and making a quick decision, and the way that offense has operated in the past when they haven't been talented at pass catcher. Now they've got Odell. I like Rashad Bateman. I've liked Rashad Bateman for a couple of years now. Mark Andrews is healthy. It just feels like sacking Lamar. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. And when he does make a quick decision, usually he makes a good decision. Marco, what did you think of To'o and Hansen getting burned in coverage? was a great job by Mike McDaniel to expose those two guys in coverage and to get them out there trying to defend guys that they shouldn't try to defend. And good job by Mike McDaniel to put them in that situation, and a great learning opportunity for those guys, and a great opportunity for D'Amico Ryans and Matt Burke to make sure those guys don't find themselves in that position again. Rick going with the 4 to 5 yards in the cloud of dust. Don't care about highlight plays. Hey, there are going to be some days where you got to move the ball with a big play, and you got to have some success doing that. And they are capable. Nico can get deep. Noah Brown can get deep, and then we haven't seen it yet, but Tank can get deep. Surprising cuts. I mean, is Xavier Hutchinson for sure? Excuse me. Is Xavier Hutchinson clearly on this team? I mean, Steven Sims, kickoff return, punt return, has had some plays. There's no investment in Sims. There is investment in Hutchinson. That would maybe be one of them. I can't really see any other just like, whoa. Kirk Heinisch is going to play for somebody else if you cut him. You're not getting him to the practice squad. So, that'd be a little bit of a surprise. I'd be surprised if they cut Shaq Griffin. It's nice to have him as a depth piece. I mean, you're going to find a guy better than Shaq Griffin off the street. It's not like you're paying him a bunch of money, so maybe Shaq Griffin, but why turn your cornerback room from a 5-deep cornerback room to a 4-deep cornerback room just to keep the last guy at another depth spot? That doesn't make sense. With Ryans being a defensive guy and our first-year offensive coordinator having his hands full calling plays for the first time, are we worried who is teaching, training young rookie CJ? I'm not, Ray. I've liked the conversation that the team and the players have had around Bobby Slowick and how they like the way he approaches teaching and they like the way that he approaches talking about the game. Gerard Johnson, the quarterback coach, has been highly touted for a couple of years now. So I like what he brings to the table on the coaching staff. There's a couple of older guys that have been around some other QBs, so I'm not super worried about that. Full PPR, who scores the most fantasy points this year? Nico, Bobby Trees, or Tank? Tank. For Stroud on Sunday, 1 or 2 series maybe. 1 or 2 series. Do you think Nico Collins will have a breakout year? He's looked good so far. Nico's an incredible practice player. It hasn't translated to game days on Sundays, and he has to stay healthy. He has to stay healthy. Nico Collins has had injury affect both of his pro seasons to this point. He has got to stay healthy. So if he can play 17 games and showcase some of the stuff that he has done in practice, that's going to be a really nice football player for you. Okay, that's going to be a guy that scores touchdowns. That's going to be a guy that gets open. That's going to be a guy that's an option for CJ Stroud. If you watch the play that Noah Brown has the ball knocked away, good job by Stroud to go ahead and try to get that guy because he's open. You'd love for him to complete the pass, but it's a good job by Stroud to make that throw. If you watch that play again, Nico's beat the guy headed towards the corner of the end zone. So if Stroud had held on for one more second and looked at Nico, I think that's an easy touchdown. Easy for me to say. I'm not standing back there with 300-pound men trying to eat me, okay? But Nico was open a couple of different times where the ball didn't end up to him in that game. And if he can stay healthy and show some of that progress, he just needs to be a solid player. Like, if you have 4 solid guys as wide receivers, you can manage for an entire season. Then you can worry about getting that elite, super great wide receiver another way. Maybe it's a draft pick or maybe it's a free agent signing, something like that, trade, whatever. But if you have 4 guys that you trust on any given play that are solid, make it happen. You'll take that, especially where this wide receiver room has been. And James brings up a good point. I hope Nico breaks out. If not, he gone. He go. I agree with you. If Nico doesn't show it this year, why keep him around? Why keep him around? Does Sting do better than Sauce this season? I mean, I wouldn't bet on this. Is it possible? Sure. Is there a chance maybe Sauce Gardner had an off season where he's feeling himself, one of the best corners in football, and then all of a sudden, kind of lets it go to his head? Sure, that's possible. That dude's a baller, though, so I feel like he's still going to be pretty good. Watched Bryce. He looked like he had a hard time seeing downfield over the matchup inside. There was one of these plays where Bryce he missed the throw, and there was like a kind of a glob of players in his line of sight, and I was like, ooh, did he see that? Did he see where his guy was when he missed that throw? Also, the Giants PR guy adjusting the microphone for height and be like, I'm 5'9". Is this going to block his face? And then Bryce having to walk up right after that. That was hilarious. If you haven't seen that video, chase that one down. That tickled me. Should the Texans make a run at Clowney? I don't think it will cost much. Well, Richard, the Texans will see Jadeveon Clowney week 1. He's on the Baltimore Ravens now. I don't believe there's a ton of free agents currently that can take roster spots away from guys on this team. If there were, I believe the team would have brought them in. But cut down day, they're cutting over 1,000 players, okay? Over 1,000 guys are going to get cut. You should be able to sift through some of those guys and find a player or 2 or 3 that is better than somebody that you've kept on your 53. And the Texans have number 2 waiver priority. So if they really want somebody, the Bears don't take them, the Texans can get that guy. It's a virtue of being really bad last year. Zay Flowers was a draft crush of mine. I love Zay Flowers. And I did not mention him with the Ravens. That's another guy you got to defend. Odell, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, who was one of my favorite prospects this year. In Baltimore, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough week 1. That's going to be fun, though, man. When the regular season gets here, it's not going to be cool in Houston at all in the slightest. But when you're getting to week 5, week 6, like you're kind of in football mode, you've had a couple of games to digest, you got an idea about where the team is headed, where the team's going. That first week, man, it just drags. My God, does that first week drag? And then you get to Thursday night, and you get the kickoff game, and you're like, yes, football's back. And then your team is another 3 days away, Friday night and Saturday, and then you finally get to Sunday. Man, that's going to be a long week. Long week. We're going to have some fun, though. Got some great stuff planned for you here. Got some great stuff planned for you on the site as well. Sean G, do you think the first handful of teams are going to crowd the box and force CJ to throw and blitz often? Also, I felt as if King got picked on a little bit too much. Hey, Tyreek Hill makes a lot of people look silly. Desmond King had an interception in the joint practices. There was another play that King made in the game, and I was like, oh, Desmond King. But yes, they went after him. They went after him pretty good. Julian, how hard will it be to cut down to straight 53-man roster? Will teams make mistakes? There will be super surprising stars out there after the cut. I mean, stars, no, if you're a star, you stay on your team. But I do believe there will be at least 2 or 3 veterans that get cut that would be upgrades at positions for the Texans. I think about defensive line. I think about maybe a 6th linebacker or a 5th linebacker. I would think about tight end. Man, they could really use some tight end depth. Quateriano's been nothing so far since he got back from PUP. I guess Mason Schreck, Eric Tomlinson. Like, if somebody decent gets cut, bring in that guy. Stroud's next time is called the line of scrimmage. Slowick still hasn't made him audible through. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Command of the offense. Hey, coach, I saw this. I checked into this play. Did I make the right decision? Get that out of the way against the Saints. You don't want to be checking in the wrong play against the Ravens. The next thing you know, somebody in purple's laying on top of you. Whose stock have you bought into? Is Nico going to be all hype, or should we slow buy stock? If this was a stock market, Nico Collins would be the second most expensive Texans stock. It would be worth investing in because the top end is a really productive player. Not a great player. I don't believe the top end for Nico Collins is a great player. But a consistent and productive player, yes, I believe that is a potential outcome. It's not the most likely outcome, and it's not an outcome that I would necessarily bet on, but it is a potential. Like, he possesses the ability to be consistent and a good football player. Ray, I actually wrote about this in the post-game article. And I feel like we talked about it a little bit in the post-game live the other night. But, yeah, they need to run the ball better. And I think part of that's maybe just the situation. The rushing attack, I'm not super worried about. Kenyon threw a guy out of the club. Drew Scruggs threw a guy out of the club. Like, I'm not as worried about the run blocking as I am the pass blocking. And Indy Kalu on the broadcast was laughing because they had a run blitz on. And Kalu was joking that that's like against the preseason Geneva Convention. If the Rams cut Tyler Higbee, sign me the hell up for that. Because that's a guy that can block a little bit and go out there and catch. Him and Schultz together, that'd be a nice little tight end room. They really cutting Higbee, and Tyler Higbee's on the bubble? Man, that'd be crazy if they cut Higbee. Let's see. Jascad. This year is interesting. Don't get me twisted, because truly believe the Texans will win some Super Bowls, but I think this team needs to grow probably 6 or 7 wins. Hey, 6 or 7 wins from the second worst team in football last year is a huge improvement. Like, I'll sign up for 6 or 7 wins right now. I'll sign up for 7 because, that'd be over the win total right now. 6 or 7 wins, I'll sign up for right now. Brevin's back. Brevin would not be a surprise cut. It'd be a surprise if he made the team. How are the Texans feeling about John Mechie's progression? I can't tell you how the Texans are feeling about him, but I would tell you this. It's kind of hit a wall. You haven't seen as much Mechie as maybe the first couple of days. So there's clearly 4 guys ahead of him in the wide receiver pecking order. Robert Woods, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Noah Brown. There's clearly 4 guys ahead of him in the pecking order. So, that's an element of, getting in there, getting opportunities, getting reps, and making some things happen for him. You think Dalton Schultz could be the best tight end we've ever had? I mean, could he have the best season? Let's see. What was OD's best year? Owen Daniels was a Pro Bowler twice for the Texans, 2008 and 2012. So 862 was Owen Daniels' high number. And 6 touchdowns in 2012 was his high number with 716. Could Schultz have better numbers than Owen Daniels' best years? Yeah, that exists in the realm of outcomes. And look, if Schultz is playing really well, extend him. Because I don't know how you're finding a guy, and there's not a lot of money committed to next year. In the second most cap space of anybody in football for next year. I know you used to. Let me double check that before I start running my mouth here. So, all right, so now it's the fourth most cap space. You got the fourth most cap space of anybody in football for next year. So if Schultz plays well, extend him. Extend him. Get him in there. Over under for Will Anderson Jr. sacks this year. If I was a book, I'd set it at 8.5. I feel like you get some action on that. 8.5. A lot of these mid-round trades Nick has made haven't looked too great just yet. Nico hadn't been good. Obviously, Mechie dealt with the health issue. Casario doesn't know about that. Move back with Kenyon. I know that's not mid-round. He's punted on some fifth-round picks for a guy here or there. So it'd be nice if Scruggs and Dell are hits for him. Let's see. You think Hutchins is going to get? Do I think he's going to get cut? No. If he, tweaked his hamstring and had to get IR'd for the year, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I mean, if that's the case, then they're going to have a couple more wide receivers coming in here. So we went through the backup QBs the other night, and I think we determined Mills is a top 10 backup with 7 to 8 guys ahead of him. David, draft Bowers next year. So Bowers is Brock Bowers. He's the tight end for Georgia. He's one of the best players in all college football. Brock Bowers is the 4th overall pick next year. He's the 3rd or 4th overall pick next year. Because I think it's going QB, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brock Bowers. Like, if I could sign up in any order, those 4 guys being the top 4 picks right now, if I could wager on that, I would wager on that. So hopefully if the Browns are that bad, they can get Brock Bowers. And then they get Brock Bowers. Whoo. Fan me. I'm going to have a fainting spell. They get Brock Bowers. All right, couple more here. You think the Texans will shop at the top for wideouts next year? Hey, depending on how this year goes, because Nico Collins is under contract for next year. Robert Woods is potentially under contract for next year. Obviously, Tank Dell, John Mechie are under contract for next year. Xavier Hutchinson's under contract for next year. So, in theory, you got 5 guys coming back that are under contract. Obviously, you can move on from Collins or Woods if they're not any good. The big fish that might be out there from a free agent standpoint is Mike Evans. Is he going to come here over some of these other teams? I don't know. Probably not. He's from Galveston, went to Texas A&M. Obviously, Houston, super close to all that. I believe he has an off-season home in Houston. So, it's not the craziest thing in the world. I also think Mike Evans is going to get extended by the Bucs because what else are they going to do? What else are they going to do? I think Stroud plays next game. Yes, I do. We talked a little bit about that at the beginning. All right, that'll do it for tonight. Appreciate everybody tuning in. A little housekeeping here. We'll get a raffle going ahead of the Ravens game. That'll be open for a little while, so be looking in the comments and the details for that. Still working through some of the details and specifics on the before the season starts get together. So working on that. Hopefully going to be able to get that together for everybody. Houston football has some really fun stuff coming up this week. If you're watching this now in the morning, the 53-man roster projection will be up. I'll give you my whole 53. Went through working on that. So the 53-man roster projection will be up in the morning on the site. You can catch the site down below, www.houfootball.com, if you're just listening and not clicking in the description. 53-man is going to be for paid subscribers. You can get in for as low as $7 a month. $7 a month. I had somebody tell me the other night, oh, hey, you should have charged way more. Yeah, it's easy to say after the fact, but you know what 7 is? 7's how many points you usually get after you score a touchdown. Okay, get you that extra point, get you to 7. 7 CJ Stroud's number. 7 days in a week. And $7 felt like a good number. So $7 a month gets you in there. If you buy a year, you get 2 months free. And there's fun stuff coming on the site, man. Just check out the site. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the support on here. Would love a thumbs up on the video. If you haven't thumbs up the video, would love for you to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed before, would love for you to tell one of your Texans friends about this. If they haven't watched it before, if they don't watch it, would love for you to share this with somebody as well. So that helps out the channel, helps grow the channel, and get some more Texans fans in here for some fun stuff that we put together here with the channel and the site as well. All right. We finish up each of the live streams the same way. It's my charge to you. It's my hope for you as well. I want you to eat good, sleep good, and be good. And we'll talk Texans again soon.